Hey guys, I was showing this to one of my subscribers. He just pulled up to the shop, so I figured it would be a good video to share with the rest of the rest of my channel. So as you can tell, this is lighter, a little darker, and that's really light, and that's light gray, dark gray, pretty bad, and really bad. So this is what a 10,000 mile. You could kind of tell how the supply was in there. Excuse my finger, but that's gonna be my pointing finger for now. So that right there is where the main source of fuel was, and then it went around the bolt, right? So that's dirty, and then it cleaner, right? That's primary. This is secondary. You could tell how that's clean. That's what 10,000 miles looks like. This is what a nearly brand new filter looks like that just got wet with diesel. Unknown mileage on this. This is from the 6-speed that we were rebuilding, so we never knew the mileage. So once we put it together, there's a video coming. We just went through all the fluids and still going through it, but the vital ones got thrown. You could tell the plastic's getting old. You see how it's getting all brittle looking? Now that's 15,000 miles, and then that's unknown mileage, right? So what do you really look for when you swap out your filters? These are my personal rig filters, and yeah, you can definitely tell. Yeah, it's just they're barely touching the surface, right? I'm gonna do 15, if not 20,000 miles on my next turnaround. Just the way I use the vehicle, the supply of fuel I have, and just the way how everything works out for me. This is kind of wasting money. Now, this is where you want to be, and this is where you're pushing your luck. So I think that's 32,000 miles from a customer's rig. That's unknown mileage, but this is off of a 5th gen. This is the primary. This is the water fuel separator, and these are the actual fuel cleaners. So just by looking at it, obviously you can't compare them in your real world. When it comes to real world view, you're looking for a gray. A lighter gray, a little darker gray, like in this instance, is fine. And it's just such a perfect example, right? I think this came out of a 4th gen, and this thing came out of a 5th gen, and the 5th gens, they go through a little bit more fuel than the 4th gens. And that's just perfect, right? I think this one has 12 to 15,000 miles. It came out of one of my fleet trucks. I already forgot. I could go back in the records and look for it, but that's not the point. The point is that this is roughly the shade you're looking for. It's starting to get a little dirty. You're getting your money's worth. These things aren't cheap. This is a $100 filter. The real OEM stuff is, you know, the real deal is $100. The knockoffs are, you get $20 filters. And I said we could talk that in another one, but why don't we talk about it now? How do I do this? I just had a knockoff one laying around here. I wish I had. Oh, here's a knock on. Sorry guys, I'm going through my trash. That's not no knockoff. That's an oil filter. Here's a knockoff fuel filter. I want to show you guys this. Average Joe, the best thing I can explain to you, the more the merrier, is always the case. You see how many pleats of material there is compared to this, right? You're not even half of the amount of paper to this. So what that gives it gives a surface that it can filter. It gives it a lot more material with these versus these. You're not filtering anything big here. I mean, everything's so microscopic. I mean, it's all going to be in the media. So just by looking at a filter, you could tell which one's the cheap, the knockoff, and which one's the real deal. You see how well, and besides the fact that you couldn't pull this one out without destroying it, the fact that they're built better, but you have a lot more pleats, you have a lot more media that the filter could be filtered through. I think this thing's about 40% of what this thing is as far as capability goes. So that's another thing to look for. You will pay one way or another. It just depends where you want to pay. This guy could be using cheap filters at 100,000. He swaps out his truck and he moves on. Well, he's paying for a new truck. He's taking a harder hit on the depreciation. I mean, everyone does their numbers, and obviously at a certain point you win more than the other way, right? You have your you pick your poison, in other words. So this guy, meaning the cheap guy, has run his filters at 20 bucks, but he's getting rid of his truck. Or you could be like, me here, I run my fleet pretty high mileage, and I get 500,000 out of injectors, and I'm that's just where I'm at. This is 5 times the amount, but it's also 5 times the price. You know, 20 bucks, and then you got 100 bucks. So pick your poison, see which guy and which, you know, which team you're on. Long haul or short haul, cheap or expensive. Well, it's kind of wash. Either you pay up and take care of your equipment takes care of you, and a little bit less of selling and buying, or you could be cheap at the counter, save money on parts. But are you really? You're still gonna pay up. The 500,000 mile club might not be for everybody, but this is too sketch. I mean, we couldn't even pull out the filter without destroying it. It was so jammed up in there. And what I mistaken fuel filter. This is an oil filter. Probably should have done a video on it. I'm kind of sour about this. Like, I mean, 5,000 miles and this filter looks like trash. This is off of a 25 Ram 3500 oil filter. Look in my videos, you'll see them. Now I like that Ram went away from the canister and then went to the cartridge, so you could tell what situation or where your rear filter's at. That's pushing it. That's borderline pushing it. Definitely nothing like that. Nor not that territory. It's just unreasonable. Excuse me. So you would want to go with the lighter gray. So it don't matter, you know, you might be at 10,000 miles and that's how your filters look. Go to 7, go to 8, because that's kind of on the dirty side. I'd want to go a little less there. And that's perfectly acceptable. You know, in the video, you could really tell. In person, it might be a little harder, but you could tell how that one's nice and clean. And no, they're not wet and dry. I mean, all these they were down here draining, and I just picked them up, put them here. Besides, this guy was a recent pull, and I got pulled out of there. So I'm being as transparent as forward and as being as fair in comparison as possible. So these filter, I mean, waste of money. So I don't even know if I'm gonna bother at 15,000. I think I'm gonna go to 20,000. The reason I'm doing these comparisons, these tests, because, you know, manufacturers, they know best. I agree, but sometimes they just doesn't add up for the application that you're using. Like my intake filters, every 10,000 miles they get swapped out. Fuel filters, they're probably gonna be at 20 with these 25s. These, they're still gonna be stuck to right about 15 doing what we're doing. You know, if you have a really good supply of fuel and fuel mileage is up there, right? There's so many contributing factors. The bottom line, where you at with your filter, that's what you should be. Gray, lighter, darker gray, but not too dark and not black. Alrighty, fellas. Hopefully I kind of gave you guys enough tips and call it tricks or whatever. Just kind of gauge where you at with it. Just like this lineup, these are in the middle. This is what you're shooting for, gray and lighter or darker gray. Anyways, may the good Lord bless you, and may you all mighty fine day. Ciao, bye.